Hello everyone, it's your pal Roscoe McGillicuddy here with another brutal narration where today we are going to be looking at the ins and outs of the Thomas the Tank Engine or Thomas and Friends series. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar. Let's get right into it. So the Thomas the Tank Engine series has been a staple of children's programming for generations. Truly, children today watch this show with their parents, who also watched the show while they themselves were little, but who can now see how lame the show really was. Over the years, the production quality of the show itself has changed numerous times, improving from original stop-action animation involving toys and action figures to semi-cutting-edge computer graphics, the likes of which no doubt make Pixar animators swoon with jealousy. It is widely believed the Thomas series began in a series of books published in 1945, but archaeologists have discovered that Thomas has been entertaining families the world over for thousands of years, after having found ancient cave paintings in Europe and even discovering parts of an episode script among the Dead Sea Scrolls. It is rumored that Moses himself was actually a huge fan of Thomas. Over the countless millennia that Thomas and Friends has been on the air, the premise of the show has changed very little. So, for those of you who have been living under a rock for the last 4,000 years, we will explain the general premise of Thomas and Friends right now. Thomas is but one of a large fleet of trains who live and serve on the fictional island of Sodor, which is a small island where apparently nothing ever happens that is not related to trains in one way, shape, or form. For as small as the island is, the number of trains that it has on it is ridiculously high, and it is doubtful that in a real-world setting, exclusive use of such an expensive mode of transportation in such a small area could ever be a profitable business plan.
Roadhog!
Sorry, Balti! Important delayed mail coming through!
Would have been delivered on time if it was delivered by road.
The Baron in charge of the entire operation is a portly gentleman named Sir Topham Hatt, who in a less politically correct era was referred to by the more derogatory name, the Fat Controller. Sir Topham Hatt's rule over the train fleet is iron-fisted, and he always strives for 100% efficiency through the exploitation of his overworked and unpaid trains, always admonishing any type of confusion or delay.
He has caused confusion and delay. You have caused confusion and delay. You have caused confusion and delay. You have caused confusion and delay.
Apparently, this type of tyrannical leadership is condoned by the Crown, as is evidenced by Hatt's apparent knighthood. For this, we give Sir Topham Hatt the #Leadership Award. Congratulations, Sir Hatt, you have deserved it. All of the trains on Sodor are committed to pleasing Sir Topham Hatt at all times. However, one must wonder if this loyalty is actually rooted in a deep-seated fear of Sir Topham Hatt, since on many occasions the trains have mentioned fear of being sent to the scrapyards for not being useful. What the narrative appears to avoid overtly saying here is that Sir Topham Hatt has absolutely no problem executing trains on his fleet in the event that they underperform. So whereas one person may watch the show and think the trains just have an innate need to impress their boss, another viewer may detect a whiff of something a little more sinister going on. The series centers around the trains themselves as they live and work around the island of Sodor, carrying throngs of passengers for very short distances, lugging nondescript cargo to nondescript work sites, and so on. As with many shows, tension arises in every episode, typically stemming from the trains themselves, as each train has proven himself or herself to be psychologically unstable in one way or another. Each train seems to exhibit some form of personality defect, and this is what generally causes conflict within any given episode. For example, we have Thomas, who is the series' namesake. He is described as being, quote, a cheeky little engine, which means absolutely nothing to American audiences since the term cheeky is not commonly used in the United States. But even without understanding the term cheeky, one can watch the series to determine what this actually means. Based on Thomas's general behavior, it can be derived that cheeky means mostly nice but with a tendency to be a colossal jerk from time to time, as we see Thomas regularly taunt other trains both bigger and smaller than him. Thomas will do anything to remain the most useful engine on Sodor, even though in comparison to his co-workers, he has really no advantage whatsoever. He is not the biggest engine, nor the strongest, nor the prettiest. If Thomas were a character in Super Mario Bros. 2, he would just be Mario, the normal, skim-milk character with median skills across the board. He is the star of the show, even though everyone knows Toad is the best character to use.
I I'm the best!
Joining Thomas is an army of engines coming in a wide range of sizes, colors, and glaring personality issues. Gordon is the biggest engine on the island, and he constantly reminds the other engines of this fact.
I'm fastest and best. I pull the express.
Gordon's glaring personality defect is pride, but he does not realize that on a small island like Sodor, a larger engine is economically unfeasible, and it is only a matter of time before he ends up being taken apart by Sir Topham Hatt in order to build a new, smaller, and more efficient engine. James is a shiny red engine. His glaring personality defect is vanity. He believes he is the superior engine on Sodor solely due to the color of his skin, paint. Surely anyone can see the major problems with this.
Hello, James. What are you doing today?
I shall be looking splendid as usual, Thomas.
Percy is a little green engine with major confidence issues. Edward is some kind of Thomas/Gordon hybrid who is just trying to find his way on Sodor and avoid being scrapped by the evil Sir Topham Hatt. Oh yeah, and also there are a plethora of other trains who make small appearances throughout the series just for the purpose of selling overpriced toys in Barnes & Noble bookstores. Thomas and Friends has been narrated by a litany of unlikely stars over the years, including a substandard drummer, a foul-mouthed comedian, an unfunny alcoholic who leaves drunken and profanity-laden messages on his 10-year-old daughter's voicemail, and some other guy no one has ever heard of. So far, we have made a lot of claims about Thomas and Friends, but have done very little to back them up. So at this point, we would like to turn our attention to an early episode of the show to prove our points. The episode we will be looking at today is titled The Sad Story of Henry, which in reality is not as sad as it is disturbing. Henry is an engine painted puke green who, despite his face, has some real image issues. Henry is hauling God knows what from God knows where to God knows where when rain starts falling. Henry thinks the rain will mar his beautiful green paint and takes refuge in a tunnel to avoid getting wet. The only problem is that Henry stubbornly refuses to come out of the tunnel at all. In this shot, Thomas clearly doesn't care. Henry's conductor, a human being, argues with Henry to get moving, but Henry refuses, and at this point it becomes unclear as to who is really in charge of these trains and why people are needed to drive them at all. His conductor tries to reason with Henry, but Henry instead just farts all over him. Uh-oh, now we've got problems. Here comes Sir Topham Hatt to handle the situation like only a ruthless madman can. Hatt threatens Henry that he will have a team of rail workers and, apparently regular civilians, pull him out of the tunnel. Everyone except himself, of course, because...
my doctor has forbidden me to pull.
Not surprisingly, what looks to be about 8 or 10 people are unable to pull a full-size train. Hatt then has the same group of uninsured people try to push Henry out from the other side. But even after recruiting a handful more people for the cause, it turns out 15 people also do not have the strength necessary to push a full-size locomotive. In other news, it must have taken forever for the people making the show to lean all those action figures so perfectly without them falling over. Once again, Hatt excuses himself from contributing his assistance to the work for medical reasons.
My doctor has forbidden me to push, he said.
As mentioned before, Sodor has a ridiculous number of trains at their disposal, so at some point someone figured, hey, why not just use another train to push this jerk out of the tunnel? And someone else was like, dude, that's a terrific idea. We should totally do that, la 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 la. So, they called not for Gordon, the biggest train in the fleet who could easily push Henry out of the tunnel with just the powers of his mind. No, they called for little Thomas, who ended up failing miserably because he's a puny weakling. You just took one step closer to the scrapyard, Thomas, mumbled Hatt under his breath. So basically, nothing worked at all, and regardless of all their efforts, Henry remained in the tunnel. So Hatt finally had enough, and basically banished Henry to stay in the tunnel forever.
We shall take away your rails, he said, and leave you here for always and always and always. Always and always and always.
And if you think Hatt was kidding around, think again, because check out what he did here. He totally had his minions take up the track entirely and build a danged brick wall around the entrance of the tunnel just to keep Henry in. Side note, if you notice, Hatt is suddenly able to do manual labor as he actually helps with building this wall. This is after having shirked his responsibilities earlier due to some fake doctor's order. Again, the hashtag leadership award goes to Sir Topham Hatt. So now, Henry is pretty much imprisoned for what appears to be the rest of his life. All by the evil Sir Topham Hatt, who is more than willing to sacrifice an entire rail line just to make his point and punish Henry for his insolence. With this move, Hatt sends a message to all the rest of his trains effectively saying, "Don't cross me or I will deal with you." Now you might say, surely Hatt isn't that ruthless? No way he would leave Henry in there forever. Certainly this episode will have a resolution where everyone lives happily ever after. Well, let's watch the original clip and find out. No, indeed it turns out Hatt is that ruthless. Hatt so highly values subordinates that he brings the iron hand of punishment on all who cross him. Now I know why Thomas and his friends live in a state of constant fear from the evils of Sir Topham Hatt. So as you can see, the Thomas and Friends series, whether it be an old episode or a new episode, is just rife with problems. And all one has to do to see them is to watch the show really closely and just think about behind the scenes what exactly is going on here. So with that, we will end today's episode in our deep dive into the problems behind Thomas and Friends, the series. I would like to thank you for watching this video, and if you liked it, please click the like button down below. And if you're not subscribed, why not? What's wrong with you? If you subscribe and click the notification bell, you'll hear about it every time I do a video like this. Do you want to miss that? I don't think so. I mean, you clicked like, right? So why would you want to miss another episode? I make videos like this all the time, and I continue to make my normal Peppa Pig edits that I've been making for years. There's something for everybody on this channel, so please, like I said, click like, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day. We'll see you next time.